Hello, and welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto, attorney at law in the state of Michigan. I've been practicing law for 24 years in the fields of consumer protection and lemon law. I'm a frequent writer. My stuff appears on Jalopnik, Opposite Lock, and a variety of other places. And I've written a few books, including a book called The New Lemon Law Bible, Everything the Smart Consumer Needs to Know About Automobile Law. It's on Amazon. You can buy it there for 12 bucks, or if you want a copy today for half price, email me directly. I'll hook you up for $6. That includes postage and my autograph. Signed copy of the New Lemon Law Bible, $6. Email me directly, lehto@kennon.com, LEHTO@KENNON.com, and I'll hook you up. Now this week we're going to talk about crazy dealership stories, crazy things dealerships have done. They never cease to amaze me, and each time I catch one, I realize that 99 more got away, and they each try to outdo the others with crazier and crazier stuff. I mentioned a couple weeks ago the story about the car dealership that ran the ad after the North American International Auto Show. They said, we have the auto show special. Come on down, give us $100, and then you pay $100 a month. You'll get a Jeep Grand Cherokee for a year. So for $1,300 total, you'll get a Jeep Grand Cherokee for 1 year. It's a lease. And of course, they took the money and they never gave anybody anything. And so we filed a lawsuit, turned it into a class action, settled it, and got these people their stuff back. But the point is that they did that. I have no idea what they're planning on doing with that. I think what they're hoping to do was when you came back and complained, they'd say, well, you know something? We ran out of Jeeps. Do you want something else? And then, of course, they'd overcharge you on something else. Anything they can do to get you in the door sometimes is what they're trying to do with a car dealership. And that gets us to the next story. Somebody recently asked me if I've ever been in front of the judge, Scary Mary. And they're talking about Mary Cherznowski in Macomb County, Michigan. And yes, I have been. And Mary's famous because she often gives people a second chance. But she often does it by giving them the choice. And that is, she'll say, I'll give you a second chance, but you don't want to get back in front of me. So if you screw up, you're going to pay. But if you take advantage of this one last opportunity to get your life together, we'll both be happy. And so they've done documentaries on her. I've seen her on national TV. And they've tracked down some of the people who've been in front of her. And they often say, yes, she saved my life. Because she was the one who did the wake-up call, who basically said, if you don't get your act together, you're going to wind up in prison. So that's Scary Mary. And yes, I've been in front of her. And like many circuit court judges in Michigan, she handles both civil cases and criminal cases. And I don't do criminal stuff that often. I was in front of her on a civil case. And I had a case where my client lives in Macomb County, and he got a thing in the mail one day from a car dealership. Car dealership sends out these letters, and it says, enclosed, please find a key. This key might fit a car on our showroom floor, and if it does fit, you can have the car. And in the fine print, it says we've sent out 10,000 keys, and one of them fits this car. Your odds of winning are 1 in 10,000. So my client goes into the dealership, says, I got this key. They say, come on over here. Of course, they don't think anybody's going to actually come in and win this thing. My client gets in the car, puts in the key, turns it, car starts. They're like, oh my gosh, we have a winner. People are running around, blowing off those party things. There's balloons falling from the sky. There's all kinds of confetti in the air. They take his picture. They give him a Polaroid picture of him in front of the car he just won. And they say, come back tomorrow and do the paperwork. So the next day he comes back in. They say, you know something, there was a problem. You weren't supposed to win, so you don't get the car. And he says, what do you mean I don't get the car? And they said, well, the key that we sent you wasn't supposed to work. We don't know why that key worked. We know who got the winning key, and it wasn't supposed to be you. So therefore, we don't know how you did it, but you don't get the car. Sorry. And they later announced that nobody had won the car. So my client calls me up and says, hey, what do you think of this? And I said, it sounds like a scam to me. So we filed a lawsuit. And we filed it in Macomb County because that's where the car dealership was. And next thing we know, we're in front of Judge Mary Cherznowski, later nicknamed Scary Mary. And she has us at a pretrial conference. She says, okay, guys, come back in the office here. We'll talk. And she asks me what the case is all about. And I tell her what I just told you. And then the defense attorney starts to talk and says, well, we don't know how the guy did it, but he wasn't supposed to win. And the judge says, I don't care. His key started the car. He won. Doesn't he get the car? And the guy said, well, Your Honor, it's not that easy because you have to understand the company that actually, the promotional company that does this contest, they keep track of who gets the winning key, and the winning key went to somebody who didn't come in. And she said, okay, then how do you explain the fact that this guy has the winning key? And the attorney said, well, we're not quite sure how he pulled it off, but we think he pulled some kind of scam. Okay, now, again, my guy's just some guy off the street. He's not a wizard. He's not a magician. He's not an engineer or a mechanic at a Dodge dealership. He doesn't know anything about how keys work. He didn't pull off a scam. He's not a locksmith, okay? And so this is the first I'd heard of it. And the attorney says, yeah, we think the guy pulled off some kind of scam. And I turned to the judge and I said, Your Honor, my client will take a polygraph. And the judge looks at the defense attorney and says, well, if the guy will take a polygraph, if he passes, he should win, right? And the defense attorney says, well, Your Honor, my client won't agree to that. Now, here's the interesting thing about polygraphs, okay? And this is a little known fact. Polygraphs are often just as valuable when they're not used as when they are used, okay? So the police officers come up to you and they say, hey, did you do such and such? And you say, no, I didn't. And they say, well, we think you did. And they say, will you take a polygraph? If you say, no, I won't take a polygraph, they go, okay, this guy's probably lying. Now, you haven't taken the polygraph yet. How do they know that? Because anybody who's innocent would say, sure, I'll take a polygraph. Why wouldn't I take a polygraph? Now, I understand there's guys out there, there's attorneys out there who are listening to me saying, Steve, you and I both know that you wouldn't want your defendant in a criminal case taking a polygraph willy-nilly, okay? And I understand that. My point is simply this, that in a simple situation like a civil lawsuit where there's something like this at stake, there's no problem with saying, my guy will take a polygraph. And it's just funny watching the defense attorney go, oh, we wouldn't agree to that. The judge immediately looks at this and goes, okay, Mr. Lehto's client's obviously righteous here, and the defendants are being jackasses because they're the ones who are saying we wouldn't believe a polygraph. And the judge looks at the defense attorney and goes, wait, what? Wait, you don't like polygraphs or your client doesn't like them? And the guy goes, well, Your Honor, my client doesn't like them. As if he discussed this with his client, which we know he hadn't because I had just brought it up for the first time at the settlement conference, a pretrial conference. And so the judge goes, how about this? Go out right now, call your client on the phone, run this by your client, and explain to your client that I like polygraphs. And the guy said, okay, well, I'll go and see. And he went out in the hallway, and he went down to a payphone. This is, I think, actually before cell phones were allowed in the building. And he comes back, he goes, well, Your Honor, my client will reluctantly agree to this. And I said, okay, so the settlement is this. This is a simple case. My client will take a polygraph by a licensed certified polygraph examiner. We'll agree on the guy. Okay, so in other words, I'm not going to just go yank a guy out of the phone book and tell the defendant. I said, I'll pick somebody and you can examine his credentials and say yes or no, we agree to that. And my guy will take the polygraph, and the polygraph examiner is going to say either this guy passes or he fails. If he passes, we win and we get all the relief in our lawsuit. And if he fails, we lose, case dismissed, game over right now. And judge said, hey, sounds good to me. Defense attorney says, well, I guess so. And as you might imagine, my client and I went through a list of polygraph examiners that we got out of the back of the Michigan Bar Journal where they advertise. And I sent the list over to the defense attorney and said, do you have an objection to any of these? And of course, the guy can't say object to any. They're all licensed and certified polygraph examiners. And he says, nope, pick one. We picked one. My guy goes in, passes with flying colors. Case is closed. Case is over. My guy wins. And that's a great example of a very simple way to solve a case. As for what happened with the car dealership, when they sent out those letters with the keys, they don't actually do that themselves. Okay, the dealership didn't actually come up with this idea on their own. They didn't have a bunch of people sitting around stuffing envelopes with keys. There's promotional companies out there that pitch these different contests to car dealers. They even do this in the radio industry. They do this in a lot of industries where they'll have promotional contests and companies run these promotions. And the promotional contest company comes to the dealership and says, here's what we'll do. We're going to mail out 10,000 envelopes. You'll get a response rate, probably 500 people will come in. So the odds of somebody coming in with a winning key are 500 out of 10,000 or 1 in 20. And therefore your odds of having to give the car away are 1 in 20. And you can buy a bond against that or like an insurance policy against that. So that if you do wind up giving the car away, it's only going to cost you a couple of grand. And if you don't give the car away, it's going to cost you a couple $100. But whatever the cost of promotion is, it'll still do well because you're going to sell so many cars to the 500 people who come in response to this ad. Now, I understand I might not have those numbers correct. I'm making stuff up here as I go along in terms of the numbers, but that's how the concept works, okay? And so what happened was they accidentally sent the key to the wrong person, or they didn't keep track of who got the winning key. But for whatever reason, they accidentally sent the winning key to my client. My client shows up, and for whatever reason, they were going to actually say he wasn't supposed to win. And I'm sure many of you have heard about examples of people who go to Vegas, for instance, and they go and they win at a slot machine and they win some gigantic jackpot. In fact, the Daily Mail had an article last week about this where a woman won a multi-million-dollar jackpot and the casino workers came over and said, sorry, this jackpot wasn't supposed to get paid out today, therefore you lose. And you're like, what? I thought if I spin the wheels and it comes up and says you win, I win. And of course, the way the laws work in casinos, there really are no laws. and the casino can say anything they want, including your machine wasn't supposed to pay off today, therefore you lose. And they paid her a couple bucks, but did not give her the multi-million dollars that she asked for. And so that's the crazy world of casinos. But again, they weren't expecting my guy to win, but when he did win, they should have owned up to it, and they didn't. So yes, I've dealt with Scary Mary before, but she wasn't scary because she agreed with our concept of how to settle the case. And I'm sure the defense attorney was disappointed because he was hoping to spin his wheels and rack up hundreds of billable hours, take all kinds of depositions, and bring in experts on how automotive keys work, and then go to trial and have a trial that hinged entirely on the credibility of my witness and call my guy a liar and say he somehow ripped off a car dealership, when in reality, he just won the car. They didn't want to give it to him. So eventually they had to give it to him, and the case ended. So that was my one experience there. And it's also the one experience I've had with polygraphs or lie detectors. Now, a couple other crazy things that had happened with car dealerships. And strangely enough, two of them have to do with wheels on cars. And I had a guy who went to a car dealership and he ordered a truck. He special ordered a limited edition truck, okay? And it's a very, very particular truck. It's kind of a loud looking truck. I'm not too crazy about them. It's another Chrysler product, but he buys this truck. He special orders it. They call him, they go, dude, your truck is in. And he goes by the dealership and he sees it. It looks beautiful. And he goes, great. And they go, but it's, we're still prepping it. Come by tomorrow and pick the truck up. So the next day he goes in to pick his truck up, he signs the paperwork, he gets in his truck, and as soon as he pulls out of the lot, the truck starts wobbling, and it starts wobbling horribly, really, really bad, as if not just wheels being out of balance, but like something bent or screwed up underneath the truck. He turns around and brings it back immediately to the dealership and goes, guys, I don't know what's wrong with this truck. It's brand new. I literally just have had it 10 minutes, and the truck vibrates like you wouldn't believe. When I get above like 10 miles an hour, there's something wrong with it. They said, oh, don't worry, it's probably just the tires needing balance or whatever. Long story short, he winds up bringing it back 3 or 4 times almost immediately because they keep rebalancing the tires and rebalancing the wheels. And what happened to his truck was they special ordered it, it was sitting on the lot overnight, and somebody came by and stole the wheels off of it. And when they stole the wheels off of it, they weren't exactly careful about how they put the vehicle on the ground afterwards. And I suspect they simply pulled the wheels off and dropped it. So they bent something underneath the vehicle. I don't know if they bent something with where the wheels go on or they bent something in the suspension, but they bent something in the vehicle. So when they came in the day my client's going to pick up his vehicle and they see that the truck is sitting there with no wheels or tires on it, they simply said, oh, quick, slap some more tires and wheels on it and sell it to this guy. So my guy picks up his vehicle. He doesn't realize what happened to it. They never told him, by the way. And when he takes the vehicle out and drives it, and it's like this, he winds up with a lemon almost immediately. And we send the last chance letter to Chrysler, and Chrysler says, this is strange. A vehicle that's got this kind of problems so quickly with such a minuscule mileage, this is crazy. What's wrong with this? And of course, what is crazy is that the vehicle was damaged by vandals who stole the wheels. The dealership did a hodgepodge job of fixing it, didn't tell my client about the damage that had been done to the vehicle, and what happened is they basically forced Chrysler to buy the vehicle back because Chrysler wound up buying the vehicle back from my client. And my client's going, this is just the weirdest thing. Why did the dealership tell me the truth? Why didn't, well, we know why. Because by doing it the way they did it, Chrysler bought that vehicle back, and it was the dealership's fault. The dealership should have had better security, or when the vehicle got dropped on the ground with no wheels on it, they should have said, gee, maybe we should take this thing out and test drive it and see if it's been damaged other than the wheels being removed. Because if a professional pit crew removes all 4 wheels and then puts 4 wheels back on, they might do it well, okay? When some hoodlums do it at night in the dark, working in a hurry, using whatever tools they could cobble together, they probably didn't do it real carefully. So the damage makes sense, okay? So they shouldn't have done it that way, but that's a crazy thing a dealership did. Speaking of wheels, I had another client who bought a $70,000 or $80,000 luxury car, and it looked really, really nice. And it's one of these things that you wouldn't notice unless I pointed it out to you, but the vehicle came with wheels, and the wheels were chromed. And they were not chromed from the factory. So my client gets this vehicle, he's driving it, and anytime he gets above a certain speed, the car starts to vibrate. Now, it's an expensive luxury car. He brings it back to the dealership says, oh, we'll take care of it. And they try balancing the tires. Every time he brings it in, they balance the tires, they take the tires off, remount them, rebalance them, they're trying everything. At one point, they've got like 9 pounds of lead weights in this guy's tires. Nothing they do can put this vehicle back in balance. And we filed a lawsuit, a different manufacturer this time. It's not Chrysler. And the manufacturer's attorney calls me up one day and goes, Steve, he goes, did you ever look at your client's wheels? And I said, not that closely. Why? And he said, well, he goes, you need to step back and look. You're probably looking at the wheel weights or you're looking at the tires. He goes, but the wheels are chrome. And I said, yeah, so what? And he goes, they're not chrome from the factory. And I started thinking about it and I go, well, who chromed them? And he goes, that dealership takes it upon themselves when they get the brand new vehicles off of the car hauler, okay? They bring them into the dealership, they pull the wheels off, they pull the tires off, and they send the wheels out and have the wheels chromed someplace. And whoever's chroming the wheels isn't doing it in a way in which they stay balanced. And in fact, they're chroming them in such a way that they can't be balanced properly, apparently. So I don't know, and again, I understand there's going to be some listeners who are going to say, Steve, you don't understand how chroming works. I admit it, I don't. I have no idea how chroming works. All I know is that my client said, look, I walked onto the showroom floor and I saw the car, it looked nice, and I bought it, paid cash for it. Okay, it had chrome wheels, but it didn't occur to me that those chrome wheels were aftermarket chrome wheels because they were the correct wheels for that car from that manufacturer. The dealership had simply chromed them, okay? And apparently the addition of that chrome is what throws them out of balance because the manufacturer was telling me this. And he goes, so Steve, he goes, here's the weird thing. He goes, we're going to buy this vehicle back from you, okay? The manufacturer is buying it back. He said, trust me, we're going to make the dealership pay. And we've told them, stop chroming the wheels. There's a reason that we don't chrome them. Number one, they don't look as good as the actual wheels did, I don't think. It's one of those things you might not catch. But on the other hand, they also might not stay in balance as well, okay? So again, like I said, I have no idea how wheel chroming works. All I know is the manufacturer bought back this vehicle because the four wheels had been chromed by the dealership, unbeknownst to my client, and that kept those wheels from ever going back into balance, or at least not back into balance easily. And I can tell you because the manufacturer bought that vehicle back. So those are just a couple crazy dealership stories. Trust me, I got more, and I keep encountering more every day as I go along in my life because that's what I do for a living at lehtoslaw.com, LEHTOSLAW.com. Contact me there for questions, comments, or story ideas. Also, again, if you want a copy of the new Lemon Law Bible, everything the smart consumer needs to know about automobile law, $12 on Amazon, $6 from me. Email me directly, lehto@canon.com. Lehto@canon.com. And of course, I'm on Twitter at Steve Lehto, at STEVELEHTO. This show is on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye-bye.